Classes in session. Welcome to Unlearn 16 Classes in Session. Now, I'm all by myself today. I'm all by myself, but listen, I need to be all by myself because what I'm about to talk to you it's not a debate. It's just fact. And I've surrounded myself, you can't see it, especially if you're just listening, but I've surrounded myself by stacks of essential movies. And each stack, I have 5 movies in each stack, and each stack represents a particular genre that I believe in my heart, in my soul, in my whatever, that everybody should watch. Now, it's not necessary. I had to have these on hand, just so everybody also understands. I have probably about 700 DVDs that I haven't put into a DVD player in quite some time, but I like to have them. And the fact that I own them means that there's something special, or just means I bought them a long time ago and now I can't find DVDs to buy anymore. But nonetheless, so I'm going to go through section by section, tell you which ones are my favorite, why they're my favorite, what I think you should look for, why I think you should go rent them, find them. I guess you can't rent them anymore. Well, you can online. Or find them on whatever service that you are currently paying for. I'm paying for all the services, so survive services. Okay, here we go. First, we're going to start with classics. Now, most people don't really watch classics. They don't. Both of my uncles, when I first started watching movies, besides scaring me to death with horror movies, which I'll get to, we started with classics. And one of my most favorite series from way back then, is William Powell and Myrna Loy in The Thin Man. And the Thin Man movies, when were these made? I'm going to look these up. Oh, if somebody could hold it. 1934. That's how far back we're going here, guys. 1934. The premise of this series, and I think there's 6 or 7 in this series, William Powell is a retired detective because he marries rich. He marries Myrna Loy, and he doesn't want to work anymore because she's rich. So he's going to take it easy, but every episode, the police or somebody ask him to get involved and solve a crime, and they are hilarious. Myrna Loy is amazing. It's like Agatha Christie with humor. That's what it is. They are absolutely amazing. I guarantee you pick them up or you watch them, you will not regret it at all. They're fantastic. Myrna Loy is actually one of my favorite actresses that not a lot of people talk about. Second movie I want to talk about, Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn. Katharine Hepburn is amazing. I feel like a lot of people talk about Audrey, and I do love Audrey. Not a lot of people talk about Katharine. This is a woman who wore pants in the 30s and just told everybody to get over it because that's what she's going to do. And this movie is no exception. So Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn in Adam's Rib. Cool title, right? So in this movie, they're both lawyers, which is also cool because this movie takes place in 1949, so just post-World War II. And a lot of really cool movies, especially for women, came out just in that post-war era where women were doing everything, accomplishing everything, sort of making their stand in both film and any sort of career that they wanted to, get started in. Right after World War II. And in this movie, Spencer Tracy is a prosecutor. Katharine Hepburn is a defense attorney. And what ends up happening, and there's some humor in this, but what ends up happening is there's a domestic abuse situation. So the husband is hitting his wife, and she gets a gun, and she shoots off a section of his ear. Now, do they handle this with some comedy? Absolutely. So it's not as serious as obviously it should have been, but you have Spencer Tracy protecting the guy and saying, this is horrible and shouldn't have done it. And you have a Katharine Hepburn, in my opinion, for the first time in movies, and I'm, maybe I haven't watched them all, but first time in movies, actually making an argument, a legitimate argument for domestic wives being battered and domestic battered syndrome. And the fact that she shot him was in self-defense. And again, they make it kind of comical with the whole, she just got him on the ear. But the argument is so incredibly true and applicable. And they do it in such an incredible way. And you see this split in their household of the battle of the sexes a little bit, of these different perspectives that a lot of people haven't talked about or brought to attention in a significant way. So, Adam's Rib. You have to check that out. Now, one of my favorites, by far, my grandma and I think, used to watch this all the time. It's probably one of my favorites. And I don't, it's not like I love all musicals, but it has to be Audrey Hepburn, Rex Harrison in My Fair Lady. This has been done again and again. It's Shakespearean, right? It's based on this Shakespeare play, Pygmalion. It's been done again and again and again, but I absolutely love it. Now, is it filled with a bunch of misogyny? Yes. I don't think I can go back in time and have like the perfect movie. But there is something about her, something about the way the movie is. Obviously, the singing and all of that is amazing. And to sort of shape somebody into something that is presentable, all the while the underlying message being you can't change who somebody is into something better just by the way they speak. So, if you've never seen it, My Fair Lady. Now, everybody's seen this one, but nonetheless, it needs to make the list, and it has to be Wizard of Oz. Come on. If you haven't seen The Wizard of Oz, I don't know where you're living. I don't even understand. And there's so many applications of The Wizard of Oz outside of the singing and outside of that, really famous TikTok where the guy is screaming at her about the witch. It's fantastic. It's fantastic on many different levels. You have all of these amazing characters coming together, talking about this world they wished, this world they wanted to be a part of. And as they got to be a part of this world, you realize that there's no amount of wishing, there's no amount of make-believe, there's no amount of fantasy that is really better than who you are, where you are. And that's the underlying, surrounding all the mysticism and the witches and the magic and all of that kind of stuff. There's such incredible underlying messages in that movie that I think are absolutely timeless. Fifth movie from classics. You know what? Some people are going to disagree with this one. But let's just be aware, I grew up with a mom who loved Elvis. So I can't get around it. It's who I am. So take it easy on this one. But it's going to be Elvis, and it's going to be Kissing Cousins. Why this is my favorite, I don't know. I can't tell you why this is my favorite out of all of his movies. First of all, they're very cheesy, they're very campy. He didn't even love doing them. Kissing Cousins, though, there was two Elvises, Elvi, and they're both cousins. One has blonde hair, the other has dark hair, and they do the first split screen ever in the movies, where you have one Elvis on one side, another Elvis on another side, and as one's singing, they turn around so you can't see them at both at the same time. But look, if you want campy fun, if you want to sing along with a movie, and let's be honest, he is the king for a reason, go check out Kissing Cousins. All right, now we're going to move into my kid zone. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the 8 billion cartoons. It's too much. And I don't really own a lot of them, especially on DVD. But I'm going to go with, just a little bit older. So not cartoon kid, but the 8-year-old. What should the 8-year-old watch? My first choice, and Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, Corey Feldman, Jerry O'Connell, Kiefer Sutherland in Stand By Me. Now, Stand By Me has some of the best lines ever. To this day, when somebody says, what's your favorite candy? I instinctively say, that's easy, cherry-flavored Pez. There are lines from that movie that have stuck with me forever, and the fact that Stephen King wrote the original book, and the fact that Richard Dreyfuss is the voiceover for the adult version looking back, the fact that even River Phoenix and the way he lives out this movie is so paralleled with his real life, the whole thing is amazing. If you haven't seen Stand By Me, again, don't know where you've been, you got to check that out. Number 2, The Never-Ending Story. Now, to this day, I have tried to find replicas of the book, The Never-Ending Story. I want it leather-bound, and I want that snake talisman insignia on the top of it. I just want to own it. I've seen some on Etsy, but I've never really seen one, I think, that is just the exact replica of what goes on in that movie. But here, this movie, and again, there's, lines from the movie when was this movie made? I gotta say, the 80s? Yeah, 1984. there's lines from that movie like the rock eater, such big, strong hands. I had such big, and those lines stay with you forever as well, but it's the themes, right? It's the idea that kids have power, kids have imagination, that kids really control. Fine, in the movie it's this mythical world, but it's the power of kids to hold on to what they believe in past everything everybody is ever going to tell them. And I've built like a little bit of a brand on my podcast or on TikTok surrounding this whole this whole idea of unlearning. And I was saying the other day that I would love, like, the pinnacle would be getting on Sesame Street. Like, I swear, I thought about it today, and I envisioned it today to be on Sesame Street to teach unlearning. And then I thought, you don't need to teach unlearning to those kids. That's the point of Never Ending Story. It's like, kids already get it. We are the ones, society, the media, we mess them up. They already understand it. It would be like going on Sesame Street to be taught by kids what reality is and how I should be. I mean, it should be the other way around. So, Never Ending Story. Now, this one, again, look, everything good came out in the 80s. 1985, you have, directed by Steven Spielberg, you have a multitude of people. You have, I have to list them all off here. I can't really find them. But you have, again, Corey Feldman. He's in a lot, right? You have Chunk. You have all of these amazing, I should show you my signatures by these guys, in the movie The Goonies. Now, it was funny because I have a Chunk shirt, and everybody that's seen Goonies remembers the Truffle Shuffle. Now, in reflection, I think this is pretty awful. I mean, Chunk, that's his nickname, he's a bit of a heavier kid, and in order for him to get passage into the house, his friends bully him a little bit, make him lift off his shirt and do a particular dance because he has, well, a little bit of extra weight. And I have a t-shirt that has Chunk on it, and I realized I don't think I can be wearing that t-shirt. I think the t-shirt is just, at this point, you're like, oh my God, what a horribly offensive thing. But outside of that, because kids make fun of kids, again, there is not a single kid who watches Goonies who doesn't like it. Not a single one. Maybe adults who didn't live with it when they were kids, but I'm telling you, it stands the test of time. Put it on for an 8-year-old, I promise they'll like it. Now this one, everybody loves it. Well, except for my wife. I don't understand how she doesn't like it, to be honest. It's pretty hard to swallow. But it is The Princess Bride. Outside of the amazing cast and the amazing adventure and this love story, again, these lines stay with people forever. Ask anybody who watched it as a kid. They have those lines branded in their heads. There's no way they're getting around it. True Love, you have, Inconceivable, that guy who is just amazing. Sword Fight, you have everything. Truly everything. So check that out. That is, what year was that made in? Again, I can't read it. My eyes got. Now, this next movie I watched when I was a little bit older. It came out in the 90s. But this movie, literally, I'm in grade 12. I watched this movie, and I changed the direction of my whole life. I changed the universities I'm going to apply to. I get into Simon Fraser. I'm from Ontario. I travel across the country, 4,000 kilometers across the country to go to school in BC. Now, I understand Simon Fraser makes no sense. Why didn't I go to UBC? Because all I wanted to do after watching this movie was be a marine biologist. Free Willy. That's right. If you haven't seen that, go watch that as well. And again, to be honest, it's very timely now because we're still fighting for these kind of rights activism at this point. Now, the interesting part about the whole Free Willy thing and why I went out there and I started taking biology and I did chemistry and all of these things, and then I realized I was god awful at it, so I stopped immediately. But what was funny is that when I came home and a few years later, when I sort of gave up on, I'm going to, swim with dolphins and whales and all that kind of stuff, because in my head, it was at SeaWorld. right? Now, recognizing, again, the 90s, there wasn't the kind of advocacy and awareness of those institutions as there is now. And then I realized all those people that got to swim with whales and dolphins, they all had child psychology degrees. They all wanted to be actors. They were entertainers. And I'm like, oh my God, there could have been such an easier road. But thank God I didn't do it, because obviously knowing what we know now, can you imagine being embroiled in all of that and having to get out? I would have just been fighting for them all to be freed anyways. Fantastic. Okay, so that was kids. Are we good? So we've done classics. We've done kids. Now we're going to go to sort of, I feel like, some basic comedies. Comedies, or, just those fun movies that everybody watches no matter what age you are. Number one, Pretty Woman. Look, Julia Roberts' laugh alone. I don't know there is no better laugh in Hollywood. I will die on that hill. No better laugh. My wife's looking at me right now with like a tilted head, like she knows a better laugh. There is none a better. She's inferring it might be her. All right, well, we'll wait till you're on the big screen and then we can put you against Julia Roberts. But Julia Roberts, she's amazing. And I picked Pretty Woman because it was her breakout role. I know, Mystic Pizza for those of you at home. And I understand. Some people, again, a lot of these movies are problematic in a lot of their themology and stuff like that. There's the whole hookers thing. I get it. I get there's problems in the movie, but she rescues him right back, folks. She rescues him right back. But that scene with the open necklace case and he shuts on her hand and she laughs, come on. Come on. Everybody loves that scene. I don't care who you are. Next one. A lot of people, I don't know how many people have actually seen this movie. I feel it's a little more obscure. But it is Empire Records. And there's some very Liv Tyler's in it. You have the, you have a very cool cast of a lot of different people. It's a independent record store that's going to get bought out by a conglomerate. And it's about these kids and the owner of the record store that sort of take up, first of all, amazing soundtrack. But B, it's just like that Damn the Man kind of movie. Do I think it's the first of its kind? No. But do I think it has a better soundtrack than the rest of them? Absolutely. Next. This movie, look, I had to throw in a gay one somewhere or another. This movie is perhaps the funniest of all sort of satires surrounding coming out, being gay. And this one takes place at a straight camp. So obviously, conversion therapy, not funny, guys. But this is a satire based on that. And the movie with Natasha Lyonne, RuPaul, come on. Absolutely amazing. It is called But I'm a Cheerleader. Oh my God, I can't speak. But I'm a Cheerleader. Hilarious movie. Again, satirizes sending all of these gay kids to a camp, which I always found kind of interesting. You send a bunch of kids who barely can, get a hold of their identity in their small towns, and you send them all to live in the same space. But it's hysterical because it really, really talks about, how we enforce gender roles and what the stereotypes are. We make fun of all of the things along the way in order to sort of, get to the end of the movie, which is all about self-identity and empowerment and all of those great things. But it is funny, and it shows again and again and again just how dominant we have, like our society drives these things in, and how it creates this structure that, let's be honest, nobody wants to fit into. One of my now, is this a comedy? No, but it's another musical. I don't know anyone who's watched it who hasn't loved it. That's got to be Rent. So Rent, obviously, if you could see it on Broadway, this is a distant second. I get that. We're in COVID. First of all, nobody can go to Broadway. But second of all, I think they did a great job of bringing that to the big screen. That initial song, 525,600 minutes, I can't listen to that song without being put in a good mood. I can't. It's an amazing story. For those who don't know, It's very much focused on the HIV and AIDS crisis in the early 90s when it just, it was just affecting everybody and everybody was terrified and most people were, not educated about what it was and how they handled it. And then coupled with the economic crisis of the 90s and the way that we treat people, again, there's so much timely information in that we are still working on today and we are still struggling with today. My last comedy. Are you ready? And you have to see this one if you haven't seen this one. Alanis Morissette plays God. That technically, that is the biggest sell. And it's the movie Dogma. So, Dogma. Kevin Smith, in my opinion, his masterpiece. Now, here's the unfortunate reality. Harvey Weinstein still owns it. So Kevin Smith will not replicate it. He will not give another dime to Weinstein. So if you have a copy of Dogma, good luck, hold on to it. But he won't allow Harvey to make any more money off of it. And it's one of those things that he wish he could just buy back so he could have it, because it's such an amazing. It's a satire on religion, but you have to understand that, Kevin Williamson is, or I keep saying Kevin Williamson, Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith is very religious himself, like to the point he's Catholic. He gives 10% to the church. So he believes in faith. It's not that he doesn't have any. He just sees the hypocrisy in it. And he thinks if we can fix the hypocrisy, if we can challenge the hypocrisy, we can get at what's really the underpinnings of faith and religion. And guys, he does it in such an incredibly hysterical way. All right. I'm going to move these over here. Guys, we have a lot of movies to get through. I'm going to try to go a bit faster because I know I don't want to run out of time. Drama section. Hands down, JFK, Oliver Stone. Oliver Stone's JFK was incredible. If you don't know anything about the JFK assassination, I know that Oliver Stone wished he never actually made this movie in a lot of ways because it's garnered so much attention as a documentary. It's not a documentary. It just pulls things like the Zapruder film as a documentary. But I am telling you, watch it and then go look up the accuracies or the inaccuracies. It's astounding. Another amazing drama, Good Will Hunting. Matt Damon, Robin Williams. An amazing story about genius, about what being intelligent and what being smart and what being damaged and all of those things really mean and how to work through all of that. Amazing movie. This is a movie that I have shown to my students, but again, I recommend and I bought for so many people. Made in the 90s, movie called Higher Learning. Ice Cube is one of my favorites in that one. Omar Epps, Ice Cube, Kirsty Swanson. It's basically sets place in Columbus University, and yes, that is purposeful, and it just attacks all levels of racism and bigotry and white supremacy and sexism and homophobia and rape culture. It attacks everything within this auspice. It's definitely an adult movie, so if you're a kid, don't roll into this one without your parents watching it with you. But it's incredibly important. And again, made in the 90s, holds so much prevalence for today. Now, I do have a quote about this next movie right on my arm, and that's What Dreams May Come. What Dreams May Come actually takes place solely in the afterlife. And I don't want to give anything away, but the main sort of takeaway from What Dreams May Come is thought is real, physical, the illusion. I'm not going to say anything else. You're just going to go watch it. And finally, in the drama section, I don't hear the people talking about this. If These Walls Could Talk. Now, If These Walls Could Talk there's also a part 2, but part 1 is about abortion rights through the ages. So it takes place in one house, and it shows different women living in the house at different stages and all having to deal with abortion and their choice to have it or not to have it, and the culture and the law and everything surrounding them at that time. Incredibly powerful. The second one is actually about being gay in that same house. All right, action. Is this action? Number 1, Fight Club. Is it violent? Yes. Is it worth watching? Absolutely. You're not your doctors. That's all I'm going to say. Go watch that. Number 2, The Negotiator. I've watched this movie so many times. You got Samuel L. Jackson and Kevin Spacey. One take. It's amazing. I don't want to give any of it away. It's a simple but amazing action movie drama that everybody likes. Number 3, The Usual Suspects. Again, Kevin Spacey. I realize Kevin Spacey's having some stuff. But you know what? There's some good films here. I don't know what to say. The Usual Suspects, nobody saw that ending coming. If you haven't seen The Usual Suspects, I want you to go watch it, and I want you to comment below if you could have guessed that ending at all. Not a single person I knew could guess that ending. Geena Davis is... Oh, another Samuel L. Jackson. I have a theme here. Geena Davis, I love her so much, but this is her best action movie. The Long Kiss Goodnight. Again, this was in the 90s. Little CIA sleeper agent kind of movie. She wakes up realizing what her life used to be. And finally, and only because, look, this woman shaved her head in the middle of the movie. Like, actually, there was no wig. There was one take to get it done. G.I. Jane with Demi Moore. I think this came right after... I don't know if it was right after or before Striptease, which was... Maybe Striptease came after. But Demi Moore got ripped. And she went all in. And the whole point of the movie is a woman being able to, try to become one of the Marines. And I guess forever, I don't know what it is today, but forever women were excluded from even giving that as an option. And it was just about how all the politics behind it, as well as the physicality, as well as the sexism, as well as the danger of the military in general, and all about what people can do and how they're shaped and what they are allowed to even attempt. And that's what that movie's all about. All right. So I picked like a series that I think everybody should watch. And this series, first of all, is at school, so I couldn't have it. I can't show you the box set, but I can show you this. Look at that. Isn't that a great toy? For those of you who can't see it at home, I'm holding up an Aliens action figure, a retro action figure. The Aliens part, so there's Alien, Aliens, and then there's a few more movies after that. But Aliens is regarded as one of the best action sci-fi movies ever made. First female heroine in an action sci-fi movie ever. My cat is named after Lieutenant Ripley. Sigourney Weaver was amazing. And again, that idea, there's no letdown in any of those movies. Even number 3, when she shaved her head. She's in the penal cult. There's no letdown. Prometheus might have taken a bit of a turn. But the original Aliens movies are fantastic. Now, you guys have all seen these, but I had to add them. I can't not add them. You got to have the Avengers. You can't not. You can't not agree that Infinity War and Endgame as a culminating movie, you can't argue how amazing those were. I'm sorry, you just can't. I'm going to go a throwback here, though. Everybody needs to watch the original Supermans. Christopher Reeves, I'm sorry. You want to know something else? This movie, Avengers, doesn't happen if not for Superman. Marvel writers, and they have admitted to this, they say every time they sit down to write a Marvel movie, every single time, Ant-Man, Guardian, it doesn't matter, they refer to this, the original Superman with Christopher Reeves, as the perfect archetype movie for a superhero. So, having said that, I know there's a lot of DC, Marvel people out there, but if you love the Avengers, you got to go back and watch this. Do I have to hold up Star Wars? Of course. Of course it's Star Wars, right? You can't... Look. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this on national podcast, whatever this is. It is the beginning of everything. There is no even Harry Potter without Star Wars. And if you don't believe me, go back and see the themes, go back and see everything that Harry Potter had and everything that it took from Star Wars. Star Wars is the best. Having said that, George Lucas should stop directing, because let's be honest, they all get better when he's not directing. That's why everybody's favorite is Empire, except for my wife-to-be. Her favorite is episode 2. I think it's called Attack of the Clones. I don't even remember what happens in the episode, but it's her favorite. Also, I have to, Indiana Jones. Look, and they're about to make another one. I think the production got pulled, but Indiana Jones is also the perfect action movie. And not only is it the perfect action movie, I think Harrison Ford might be the perfect action hero. I don't know if there's any better. So I'm excited to see what will come next. All right. So that's it for my movies. No, it's not. I lied. Oh my God, I almost forgot horror. And it's like, too bad you didn't forget horror. Here it is. So, number 1. This is more of a suspense thriller, but it's disgusting. If you've ever seen it, you know how it ends. 7. Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman. It's about the 7 deadly sins. They're agents. Again, Kevin Spacey's in it. That's insane. Another horror movie you have to watch if you haven't seen it, hands down, Halloween. I don't even need to make an argument there. John Carpenter does things in this movie that everybody copies for the rest of eternity. It's it. Scream. A new one's coming out. Oh my God, a new one's coming out next week. Scream. Scream makes fun of all of the things that people copied from that John Carpenter movie forever and sort of tips them on their head and makes fun of them and brings them to light and really tries to blow them up. So, amazing. Also, probably the scariest horror movie I think I've ever seen. The Hills Have Eyes is pretty awful, and Human Centipede is disgusting. But Nightmare on Elm Street. Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street. First of all, this bad guy wasn't just a bad guy. He was a pedophile. He killed children. The worst. The whole town gets together, sets him on fire, and then he comes back in their dreams. Come on now. There's nothing worse. He was terrifying to look at. There is nothing worse than that horror villain, because really you start to feel bad a little bit for Michael. You don't quite understand why was he born that way? Was he made that way? Stuff like that. But when it comes to Freddy, also shout out Friday the 13th. I didn't put that in here, which I should have. I didn't put that in here, but Friday the 13th again is a very particular genre of horror movie that without those 3 starters, nothing else happens from there. This is a throwback. I don't know how many people have actually seen this or ever heard of it, but it is called The Blob. That's it. It's just called The Blob. And The Blob was made, I want to say in 58. I was going to say 59. 1958. And here's the premise. The Blob, like in the gumball machines when you get gack, that squishy stuff that you pull out and you stretch and you drop it once on the ground and it's absolutely ruined because it picks up every single particle. So in the movie The Blob, there's an alien, crater that launches its way to Earth, breaks open, and outpours this blob of, it looks like gack, and it slowly rolls. And as it rolls, it absorbs things. And as it absorbs sticks and rocks and twigs, because it lands in the woods, it gets bigger. And one guy pokes at it a little bit with a stick, and it climbs up the stick and eats his arm and gradually kills him, absorbs him. And this whole, I don't want to ruin the end because I really think you should go check it out. But let me just say, it gets big. Really, really big. And the brilliance of The Blob, and I wonder if, and I've never really watched commentary on it, but you know how like in every horror movie, somebody's running really fast from the bad guy and the bad guy just walks and he always gets there because the person trips or cracks their face open on something or whatever happens and the bad guy catches up. Well, it's kind of the same with this blob because it moves so slowly and it gradually just starts absorbing everything. And I'm wondering if that's what a lot of horror movie, because this is obviously 1958, I wonder if they drew on that to sort of talk about, this sort of slow momentum that you, even if you wanted to, you can't stop. And then finally, my favorite movie of all time, which I left till the very end. It is the best movie ever made in the year of my birth. Jaws. Hands down. You can't say this is not the best movie ever made. The music, the character development, everything, the terrifying nature of what lies beneath. Everything about Jaws is perfect. You're going to need a bigger boat. That line can be applied to virtually anything. Anything. Best movie, hands down. All right. My last section is all going to be about TVs. TV shows that you should watch. TV shows that nobody should ever miss. First and foremost, well, guys, I have to. It's the L Word. Come on. I don't know if people remember when this came out, but when this came out, it mattered. Like, it was huge. I realize it might not hold up as well as I would have liked it to. It wasn't as inclusive as it should have been. Look, nothing's perfect. But holy crap, this was a huge, huge step for the gay community, for the gay women's community. Just amazing. Yeah, check it out. Look, there's so many... I don't even want to do these in the wrong order or the right order. There's no wrong order for you guys to watch these in. Number 1, House. Look, if you haven't seen House, I can diagnose sarcoidosis right now. Test me. 8 seasons of pure genius. House. Also, for those who haven't seen it, Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica, I think initially came out in the 70s, and then this is the reboot of it. So this reboot came out in the 2000s at some point. Battlestar Galactica is this very cool representation of what happens when, and again, we've seen the theme time and time again, man makes robots to do stuff they don't want to do. Robots become sentient. They don't want to do it anymore. War between the two. Man tries to enslave and oppress. You got to understand how many incredibly perfect themes that represents already. The robots and man go head to head. Man wins. Robots go away. They get better. They get smarter. They come back and they start destroying. And it's man's like shock and dismay. How dare they come back? How dare they try to destroy us? And it's this amazing representation of, sure, technology and what we rely on and how we rely on it, but forget all of that. It's also about how we undervalue life and how we, the people that are in power, get to decide who's living, whose life has value, whose life has power. And then when they realize that group isn't going to be oppressed anymore, how they take that back. Incredibly important. I don't talk about this very often, which is unfortunate because I think it got canceled way too early and I think it was way ahead of its time. Newsroom. And look, this is pre-Trump, okay? Because this should have come out right around Trump. This is all about the sensationalization of news, how it's been turned on its head, how it's been turned into entertainment, how nobody gets to see what the news really is because they're so busy competing for advertisers and money and to stay on the air and to keep your attention and tell you who Kim's dating next and who cheated on who, and all of the stuff that really doesn't matter in our world takes a distant second. It also talks about the sensationalization of each political party and their issues so that we stop talking about what's right, what's wrong, what the facts are, and instead we just watch two parties sort of use their networks to inflame their position. And we all lose. So, if you haven't seen Newsroom, I think it got cut way too short. I think there's only 3 seasons, but absolutely amazing. Now, if you want to watch something and get a little, medical training under your belt, but also get the perfect level of drama, it's got... Look, this is one of the few things my wife and I agree on. Grey's Anatomy. Do I think it's lost some momentum? Possibly. But do I think Christina Yang will be the perfect character forever? Absolutely. And again, my wife would say Grey, but nonetheless. Now, if you can keep up with this show, not everybody can keep up with the show. It's hard. There's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of witty banter. There's a lot of retro throwbacks and pop culture references. But the Gilmore Girls, The Gilmore Girls is amazing. Absolutely amazing. The only people that don't like the Gilmore Girls is people that can't keep up with the banter. And I'm sticking to that. Next, we have Veronica Mars. Veronica Mars she's a young detective, solves crime, whatever. But again, Kristen Bell is amazing. If you've never seen it, Kristen Bell is amazing. It is funny. It is witty. It is interesting. It talks about classes. It talks about, again, who has the power, how they manipulate power, but it's funny and it's good to watch. Entertainment through and through. Next, we've got United States of Tara. Nobody ever talks about this show. United States of Tara. There it is. Probably one of the most underrated shows ever. So Toni Collette is the main character, and she has multiple personalities, or whatever the dissociative disorder, whatever the name is I'm supposed to use here. And she's been on medication forever to suppress them. And the series, which is 3 seasons, is about her coming off her meds because she wants to figure out who each one of these personalities are, why she has them, and she wants to get back to the root of the trauma. Obviously, there's trauma. So let's be honest, it doesn't go pretty places. But I think she plays like 7 different people. It is fascinating. She is married with kids, and so they all kind of have to adapt when the shift happens. Absolutely phenomenal. If you've never seen it, go watch it. Also, again, ahead of its time, but absolutely amazing, Holly Hunter in Saving Grace. Saving Grace it takes place after the Oklahoma City bombings. And she's a detective, and she lost her sister in the bombings. And Holly Hunter's character is a detective, and she's very lost, and she's very she wants to take care of her family, but you can tell, like, a lot of her personality is pretty much on edge all the time. And into her life walks a last chance angel. Now, am I religious? No. But does this guy that walks into her life and basically wants to help her through what she needs to get through in order to see the world, in order to heal those wounds, all of it is absolutely amazing. And at the underlying of all of it is sort of this ultimate battle between good and evil. And not just, religiously speaking, but I think within each individual person. She does it beautifully. It's an amazing show. And finally, the best of the best, guys. I could push all of this aside. If I could push all of this aside, I would. So you would watch all 7 perfect seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now, not only is this the perfect show, not only are there 7 seasons of wit and dynamic character and metaphor and application to everything. I can teach a full course. I can teach society, a grade 12 course, strictly from the different episodes of Buffy. I swear. It goes into everything. Now, as of lately, obviously, and again, apparently like all art, it's faced some problems, and this is why it won't get a reboot, unfortunately, or it won't get sort of a part 2, is because Joss Whedon has his stuff going on. I'm going to put that aside because I can't control that. What I can speak to is the way these characters were written, the way it talks about women, the way it talks about power, the way it talks about... It's not a typical superhero movie, and that's the brilliance of it. Everybody's like, oh, you love Buffy, you must love Sarah Michelle Gellar. And I do. I mean, I think she's amazing. But what made the show amazing was the cast. What made the show amazing was that all of these people had a role to play, either whether it's, through wit and dialogue and dynamic, or saving the world again, all of those very literal ways. But it all played to what I think is the perfect of all series finales. I've never seen a more, and again, give it a go. Comment below if you think there's a better series finale, not season finale, but series finale, about the way that ends and what that represents and how that empowers and how that can be portrayed in so many different ways and to so many different people. And I realize in the show, it's talking about women, and it's talking about the power that women have and how they, can control it and share it and help, all of those things. But all of those themes don't just stop there. It's funny, like I said before, you can watch it on a superficial level if you want. But I think you're missing out. University of Toronto, which is a relatively famous university here in Ontario, actually has a course dedicated to the feminist principles and sort of pop culture changing foundations that Buffy brought to the small screen. So that's a lot of watching you guys to have to do. So if you're in Ontario, you're going into a lockdown anyways. We're in one right now, so you can please start with Buffy. And please, once you've listened to this podcast or watched this podcast, comment where you can. Let me know what you agree with, what you don't agree with. Let me know if anybody wants to come on and talk Buffy, because let's be honest, that's what I would love to do with my entire life, I think. But thank you very much for listening. And that'll be your Tuesday morning, but I promise I will see you next Tuesday. Same bat time, same bat station. Dismissed.